Okay, guys, are you ready for this? You get it? I'm a tech king. Because my YouTube name is Tekking and I'm wearing a crown, which is indicative of royalty, and you're probably cringing so goddamn hard right now, your face is about to cave in on of itself like a dried up prune. Okay, I'll stop. Before I lose you completely, though, Reverie! Yeah, so you might want to stick around for that. Really big events going on in the One Piece story about to happen. A lot of major shit going on. So, after the whole events of Totland wrap up, after the whole issue with Big Mom is resolved, no idea how that's gonna go about. I don't think she's gonna die or anything, but after we're done with this current arc, the next major arc of One Piece, the next big adventure for the Straw Hats, that's already been confirmed to be Wano. The Straw Hats, Luffy and Nami going to Wano and probably reuniting with, Zoro and Law and Usopp and Frankie and Robin and Kanemon's there trying to figure out what's up with the Shogun and Kaido, and we're probably going to get into another huge ass arc with that. But intermittently between those two arcs, and this is something that Oda already kind of did with Zoe, is this like little mini arc that we're going to have, and that's going to be an arc focused on Reverie. And I don't know how long it's going to be, because Zoe was about 20 chapters, which wasn't that long. And I remember everyone was really pumped for Zoe, like Zoe was going to be like the next big arc. But hey, considering that Zoe was right after Dressrosa being the longest arc in One Piece period at 100 chapters, I can understand maybe Oda wanted to be like, all right, let's go a little bit easier with this next one. Let's reduce gear a little bit because we already had all that crazy shit that happened with Dressrosa. So Zoe was only like 20, maybe a little bit more than that chapters, and this arc is probably going to be around 50. The thing with Big Mom and stuff, maybe like around 50. So Reverie, you know what? Even if we don't get like the 20 chapters of Zoe, even if we get a good solid like maybe a dozen, even maybe a little bit less than that, 10 chapters of Reverie, that would be a really interesting introspective into looking at the One Piece government, how the world government operates, how these different kingdoms operate. Because Reverie has been shown before, and this was really cool because when it was first shown back in the Drum Island arc, I just thought it was just like, this is just a thing to a little bit explanation of Vivi's character as the Princess of Alabasta and an introduction to Cobra and everybody. It was Dalton's flashback. After the events of Drum Island, Dalton was remembering this time that he went to Reverie with Wapple, and he met Vivi there, and he met Cobra, her father, who was the ruler of Alabasta, and Dalton thought that, that's how a king really should be. I'm stuck with this fat fucking guy shoving food in his face 24/7, then turning into a freaking giant house or something. God, my life is hell. I felt bad for Dalton. It's kind of hard not to. But I thought that was just that. It was just a meeting, and that was all it was going to be. No, Oda spun this into this world summit, this big council where every 4 years, the leaders of all the kingdoms in the One Piece world, considering most of One Piece is an island sort of setting, there's a lot of island kingdoms that are allied with the world government, and they get on this big, trek to Marijois, the Holy Land, and every 4 years they just kind of hang around in a council table and try to, talk about current events and what they're going to do, and it's usually very heated because a lot of these kings and queens and royalty don't really like each other very much. I would assume that the Celestial Dragons would be involved in this, at least some way. I'm not going to begrudge Oda for not including that last time we saw it, because it was like during Drum Island. This was like over fucking 15 years ago or whenever the last time we saw Reverie. There was a Reverie that took place right before, I think, the timeline, like right before the One Piece story began. So the first one that we saw, the one in Dalton's flashback, I think Vivi was 10, and the next one she would have been 14. And when the Straw Hats meet Vivi and they have their whole adventure on Alabasta, she's 16. So now this is the next Reverie after the 2-year time skip. So there was one Reverie since the last one we saw, since the only one we saw, really. But yeah, this is the one. And we saw a chapter already that really showed all the different kings and queens getting ready, of course. We saw Wapple, who is now in command of his evil Black Drum Kingdom in the South Blue, and he's vowing to I'm going to teach Dalton a lesson. And then you, of course, have Dalton in the Sakura Kingdom, who's being, a very benevolent king that's kind of following in the footsteps of the previous king. Then Kureha, by the way, going with Dalton. So I wanted Kureha's fucking awesome. I like Kureha, and I would like to see her just like back talking Wapple at the summit. I think that would be fucking hilarious to see that. Because there was that one scene when right before Wapol was about to like launch an attack against the castle, and Luffy and Sanji and Chopper were gonna try to fight him off. I think Sanji said to Kureha like, "Are you gonna fight old lady or something?" And Kureha's like, "If they're too much for you to handle, sweetheart, I'll step in." So I think she could have. That would be kind of cool to see her like fight. That'd be pretty badass. But then of course you have the Dressrosa. You have Rebecca and King Riku Dole the Third, who's being reinstated after the whole events of Dressrosa. They're gonna be there. Rebecca's gonna be there. You have the Isabello Kingdom, which is the King Punch. King Isabello the Second, I believe his name is. He's going there. You have the kingdom in the West Blue. I forget what the kingdom is actually called, but it's Sai's kingdom. And of course, Sai is, Don Qinzhao was the former head of the family, the Qinzhao family, and he passed it down to Sai, who's now married to Baby Five. So they're going to be there. Vivi, of course, is going to be. Oh shit, no, that's from my hentai folder. Okay, here we go. Vivi, yeah, Vivi's coming back. She's going to be there. Okay, so with that being said, though, and that's a little bit of background on Reverie and who's going to be at Reverie this upcoming arc and the major kind of conflicts that are going to be there. There's also some other characters that we haven't seen yet, like there's Stelly, who is the king of the Gaul Kingdom, where Luffy and Ace and Sabo grew up, but we haven't seen him since he was a little kid. He's there. We also have the Illumi Kingdom, I think it was called, this other random kingdom that we've heard mentioned before, but have never actually seen. So the things that I want to be talked about at this meeting, because I can imagine this being a massive exposition-y kind of arc. This is going to be unlike a lot of the other arcs in One Piece where we get a lot of action. This is going to be all of these powerful people in the world sitting down at a big-ass table and just, dumping all the happenings of the world. What's going on with the Revolutionaries? What's going on in the New World with Blackbeard and the other Yonko? What's going on with the pirates? What's going on with the Straw Hats and the Whitebeard pirates? Are they still around? What's going on with, I don't know, fucking ancient weaponry and shit like that? This is going to be, a lot of talking. And for that reason, I'm thinking, like I said, it's probably not going to be that long of an arc. It's really probably only going to be a few chapters. But I think the information that we're going to find out from this arc is going to be big. I mean big. I mean giant elephant with a country of furries on its back. Big. That's the kind of shit we're going to get to find out about. We're going to get some major drops here. Number one thing that is going to be discussed regardless is going to be the Revolutionaries, of course. The last time that we saw Reverie when Vivi was 10, 8 years ago, they mentioned Dragon as sort of like, oh, this guy, yeah, he's going to be sort of a threat, kind of. You guys should pay attention to him. This is right around the time, I guess, when Dragon was rallying his forces together to really become a legitimate threat. And Wapol was just that's the argument that got Cobra and Wapol pissed off at each other, because Wapol's just like, whatever, he's not gonna fuck with my kingdom, my people are too I'm too busy being a dictator for my people to worry about a revolutionary. And then Cobra's like, you sick fool, But here we are 8 years later. Dragon has amassed his forces. He's actually liberated several islands. His influence has infiltrated the government, I think, a little bit, with Kuma being present there. That whole thing with him. And of course, Ivankov, she broke out of prison, and now he's allied with Dragon again. Of course, the revelation that Dragon is Luffy's father. That's a big one. So there's going to be a major discussion on that. Now, of course, you have the Blackbeard pirates that have attacked Baltigo and left it in the in ruins, of course. But the Revolutionaries probably have other locations they could go to. I made a video about the Revolutionaries. You can go check that out there. But most certainly, it's going to be a case where the Revolutionaries are not done yet. In fact, this is the point where you should be the most cautious, because we don't know what they're doing now. We don't know if they're pushed into a corner and they're going to do something drastic, or if this was part of their plan and they have contingencies and backups. Dragon is one of the most intelligent people in the entire One Piece story. That's why he's so fucking dangerous. That kind of gives me questions of how he gave birth to Luffy, but you know what I'm talking. Well, okay, Dragon did not give birth to Luffy. That was a little bit of a Luffy's mom, who is probably somebody that we're going to be like, holy shit, we didn't know it was that person, but we're going to find out about some point in the future. Yeah, that gave birth to Luffy. But, his seed, and then, Dragon, very, adept military thinker, tactical guy, and then Luffy's just like, I'm going to go up to a Yonko and punch them in the face, and that's my plan. Yeah. So, and I don't know if that's going to revolve around. I would love to see the interactions between the characters there. Now that Vivi has a connection to the Straw Hats, and now that King Riku and Isabello and Rebecca and Scarlet, Scarlet's dead, but Viola, everybody's, allied with the Straw Hats in some way, that's going to cause tension, don't you think? Oh, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna bring it up, but you'd think they would know about it a little bit. The world government and the Marijois and everybody there, they would obviously know about the incident in Dressrosa, because Fujitora made it very clear to not take the credit for that. So they already are aware that, Doflamingo had this iron rule, and it was Luffy and the Straw Hats were the ones that beat the shit out of them, and now King Riku is probably involved with them in some way. They're aware of that, so I wonder how that's going to go about there. Of course, I already mentioned Wapple and Dalton. They're going to be like, it's funny because it's like, it's not a setting that allows for a fight. It's not like if the king of this kingdom defeats the king of that kingdom, then that king gets that kingdom. It's going to be handled more with words and yelling and probably a lot of screaming and head veins popping out of their freaking head, skulls and shit like that. That's going to be the events there. Something else that I think is going to be mentioned, considering that you have to look at, okay, what has changed in the 4 years since last Reverie? Well, Nico Robin, who is one of the only people that can read poneglyphs, is now part of the Straw Hats crew. And we already know that the Nico Robin has had a connection to the Revolutionaries. We don't know if the world government knows that yet. As well as that, we also know that Dragon is allied with Straw Hats because Dragon is Luffy's father. Now, of course, the Straw Hats have not actually met Dragon yet, but you have to look at this from the world government's perspective. Oh shit, Luffy is Dragon's son, therefore we have to just assume, worst case scenario, they're working together in some way. At least from the world government's perspective, they would have to look at it. They would at least have to give that a little bit of credence, So it's like, oh shit, we have Nico Robin, who's this dangerous devil child who's able to read poneglyphs, and Robin knows where the ancient weapons are. Like, she knows that. She knows about Poseidon, although Poseidon is a separate, being. It's not an actual physical weapon. It's Shirahoshi, but we'll get to her in a second. And then, of course, Pluton, which is an ultimate battleship. She knows the location of 2 of them. And, just to throw it in there, she probably knows where Oranos is as well. She mentioned it, so she probably knows about its existence, okay? Maybe we'll finally get an explanation on that kingdom, that random kingdom that was mentioned by Clover back then. And because you have to consider, like, what is really top secret information here, because this isn't like a chat with the Gorosei where it's like anything goes. Whenever you see the Gorosei in that room talking to each other, it's like they can mention anything because they're the heads of the world, so nothing's top secret to them. But even when you have a case with royalty and nobles and kings and queens and shit, there are some still things you don't want to mention. But Cobra is adamant about asking them about something. He just, because I want to talk to them about something. So Cobra is going to bring up the ancient weapons or the ancient kingdom or Nico Robin or the poneglyphs. He's going to bring up something at that meeting. Cobra might end up getting axed. Now, Cobra is already not in very good condition. He's confined to a wheelchair. His hair has gone white. He's contracted probably some illness in the past 2 years. So Cobra probably doesn't have long left. And I mean, I would be fine. Well, I wouldn't be fine with Cobra dying, but that would mean Vivi would become queen, ruler of Alabasta, and having some legitimate fucking power. So that would be pretty cool. And of course, she can handle that, of course, with her advisors and everything at her side. But I feel like, yeah, Cobra's going to mention something at this meeting, and they're going to look at him like, you shouldn't have brought that up, and then he's going to end up getting his fucking drink poisoned by the fucking CP0 or some shit like that. Like, this guy's asking too many questions. We can't him around. And then, like, they threaten Vivi, like, you don't fucking, if you want to continue having your kingdom, you stop. You better not follow in your father's footsteps. You don't ask these kind of questions here, okay? So maybe it was a dark turn. It could go something like that, right? But of course, I would assume that Vivi and Cobra and everybody going would probably try to downplay their connection with the Straw Hats, because I don't think the world government's aware of that yet. Okay, now you get to Shirahoshi. You get to the Ryuga Kingdom, so Fishman Island, right? They're attending Reverie. This is a big event for them because we now have, Hody being defeated and having the petitions ready to go, and it's looking hopeful. It's looking hopeful that the Fishmen might actually be able to achieve, Otahime's dream of, Fishmen and humans living together, and the dream of the sun that it's always been out of their reach. This is a big step forward here to bring these petitions to Reverie, and another big issue is making sure that there's no distrust between Fishmen and the world government. Ever since that whole issue with Jinbei defecting from the warlords and now, joining up with a Yonko and now joining up with the Straw Hats, I would assume the government's a little bit, okay, you Fishmen, Jinbei Jinbei was kind of holding this shit together, and now he defected. So you might want to. We're listening, basically, King Neptune. What are you doing? What are you presenting with us here? So it's very important that Shirahoshi goes to Marijois for this. Here's the problem. Shirahoshi is the ancient weapon Poseidon. Her ability is that she can control Sea Kings at will. Now, she doesn't know how to control this power yet, and that's dangerous. And of course, King Neptune and, Manboshi and Fukaboshi, they're not gonna go around being like, oh, this is our sister, also known as the ancient weapon Poseidon. They're not gonna blab their gums to her, but the government might have a way of figuring that out. That's kind of what the cipher pole agencies are for. They might have a way of already knowing. The world government, how about this? Do you think that the world government is already aware of what the ancient weapons are? They might not know where they're located because they don't have anybody that can read poneglyphs, and they've outlawed it. Although you would assume that there'd be somebody in the world government that can read poneglyphs on like the very higher echelon, even if it's maybe even one of the Gorosei or something like that. But yeah, they would be aware of it, and they're aware that Poseidon is this mermaid of legend that can control fucking Sea Kings at will, right? Maybe. And so you're basically bringing the gun right in next to, no, you're bringing the bomb into a fucking volcano. Like, you're just asking this shit to explode, right? Here's Shirahoshi, Poseidon, ancient weapon. With her abilities, you could rule the world and crush all the pirates and crush all the fucking revolutionaries, and we're just basically bringing her into the world government's holy city. Okay, I don't see any problems with that, do you? I think it's going to turn out fine. Not really to say what they're really going to do with her, what they're going to do with Shirahoshi or anything like that. Basically, Neptune wants to bring her as just a sign of that the fishermen can be trusted. We're not going to try to, like, defect or anything like that, and we're trusting the world government so much, we're bringing our princess with us. So her being there doesn't really have any practical purpose. Like, they're not expecting her to speak to the nobles or anything like that. But all it takes is somebody to figure this shit out, and then it goes. You have the Goa Kingdom. Did I say Goal Kingdom? Goal is, that's something else. Goa Kingdom, right? That's where Luffy and Sabo and Ace grew up. Fuchsia Village is on the outskirts of the Goa Kingdom, and then you have the mountainside where Don Don lives, and then you have the Gray Terminal where Sabo grew up, and then finally you have the big Goa Kingdom, which is this huge kingdom that was ruled by Outlook the Third. That was Sabo's father. And then Sabo defected. He left. Well, they thought he was dead, but he left with Dragon, had amnesia, and it was Stelly, his step brother, that managed to achieve the rank of king. So now he's the ruler of the Goa Kingdom, and we don't get to see him yet. We've only seen like the back of his head. We saw him stop at Logtown on his way to Reverie, but we actually haven't seen what he looks like yet. But from his dialogue, we can tell, hey, guess what? Like most nobles in the One Piece world, he's a douche nugget! Douche nugget, douche nugget, douche nugget, Stelly! Why don't you just bring your finest lobster? Oh, that pathetic swill. Oh, look at this golden-plated room. It's so last year. That kind of bullshit fucking guy. So, he's not... I imagine him just be sitting at the table, just being one of the pretentious, like, celestial dragon motherfuckers that are just like, my kingdom is so much better than your kingdoms. You all affiliating yourself with riffraff and worrying about pirates. Oh, yes, the Goa Kingdom is so clean and amazing. Don't you guys have a massive trash heap right aside from your city? Oh, no, we're gonna burn that down again next Tuesday. Yeah, okay, whatever. So I don't know if he's gonna bring anything to the table, really, because Luffy and he hasn't been allied with the Goa Kingdom in years, although that might be funny to learn that, this infamous pirate came from my kingdom. That would be a sick burn on Stelly's part. So I think it's just more of an interesting thing connecting back to Sabo, maybe in some way. Maybe we'll get some connections there with Stelly. We have Dressrosa, of course. We have Viola and Rebecca coming as her lady-in-waiting, and we also have King Riku Dold III and Isabello. He's going to come as well. I don't know if they're going to be anything. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm thinking about how many people are attending Reverie that are connected to the Straw Hat Pirates, I could see kind of like a Civil War thing happening, can't you? Can't you? With obviously they're probably gonna go there thinking not to talk about it, like don't mention the Straw Hats. But then you're gonna be at a table with Stelly and with all these other nobles and fucking Wapple. You know Wapple's gonna open his big fat mouth and say something stupid about the Straw Hats, and you can see like King Riku and Cobra and Vivi and Dalton, and they're just getting so pissed off they can't handle it anymore, and they're just like, don't you fucking talk about the Straw Hats like that. They saved our goddamn countries. So I can see something like erupting at a fever pinch there, can't you? And then everyone's looking at them like, wait a second, you're allied with those pirates? Holy shit. And then you get like some Civil War big event. Oh my god. Well, Alabasta and the Dressrosa, they're all going to war with these other nations, and we're defecting you from the world government. You're no longer part of this. The Nefertari family were world nobles. They could have been. Like, Vivi could have been a celestial dragon. She is technically a celestial dragon. They just, most of the world nobles that are the descendants of the people that originally created the world government, they chose to live in Marijois, except for the Nefertari family that, just chose to live in Alabasta. But they're still royalty from the ones that created the world government. So Vivi is technically a world noble. Is a celestial dragon, really. She just doesn't have the title, I guess, because she doesn't live in Marijois. You have to live there. So that's like a big thing to lose them, because you're losing one of your founding families there. And you all saw how the world government reacted to Doflamingo. Like, they were really fucking afraid of Doflamingo because of his status and what he knows about the government and everything like that. And also, of course, his sheer power, but beyond that, just his status and his intelligence. Right. I'm trying to think of anything else here about it. You also have some marine action going on. You have, like, Hina, who's escorting the Nefertari family to Marijois. You have a lot of marine escorts going on here. I don't know if that means, like, Smoker's gonna get involved, because usually when Hina's involved, Smoker... Because Hina and Smoker, they were kind of like were the same rank for a while. I imagine, like, this has never been expressly stated, but I imagine they're like old buddies from back in their training days. They were both captains when they were first, Smoker was a commodore, and then he got promoted, and they were both captains. Now Hina's a rear admiral, Smoker's a vice admiral. But yeah, you got some marine action going on there, so I don't know how that's gonna play out. I mean, we'll probably see some interesting, interactions between the Marines that we haven't seen since the time skip. But yeah, it'll be amusing to see how that's going to play out. Other than that, I think I nailed on pretty much almost things I wanted to talk about Reverie coming up, and get you prepared for the arc that's going to be happening sooner rather than later. I don't think we have much long left in the Totland arc. Maybe a few months at best. I'm thinking like pretty much right after we have the Elbath flashback, which we're going to be getting next chapter this week, and that'll probably last a few chapters, maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. And then after that, we're going to cut back to the Tea Party, and I don't think there's going to be much after that before the arc ends. And then we move on to Reverie. So what do you guys think about Reverie? What do you hope to see discussed during the World Summit? Things that you think are going to reach a fever pitch, things that are going to make arguments started. Are you going to be fucking wars declared here? Are any of these people going to mention their connections to the Straw Hats? Does the government just already know about all that? Does the government already know about the ancient weapons? What's up with Shirahoshi? A lot of stuff going on here, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what this is going to be, what Oda has in store for us, but I think it's going to be pretty damn cool. Thanks you guys for watching. This will be Tekking101 signing out.